everybody, and welcome to part 15 of What If Izuku Midoriya Had an Anti-Quirk Sword. The series was originally based on Black Clover, but evolved a bit since that point. This is going to be the last episode for this series, so if you enjoy this episode and have enjoyed this series, make sure, please show your support and make sure to hit that like button to show me that you really like this. If you have missed any of the previous episodes leading up to this one, there will be a link in the description below and an annotation above to a playlist where you can see them all. Since this one kind of builds on what was done in the previous one, I'll give you like 5 seconds to click away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's get started then. In the previous episode, All For One and the League of Villains attacked Tartarus prison to break Tomura Shigaraki out of it, but the heroes arrived to stop them, aided by some students that possess a provisional hero license. A battle ensued, creating a lot of havoc on the bridge leading to Tartarus. It seemed as if the heroes had it handled until All For One managed to get the upper hand against All Might, and he took the chance to kill All Might. Most of the heroes stare at All For One in horror of what he just done. He killed their symbol of peace. All For One turns to them and laughs, tossing All Might's dead body aside. All For One asks, "What's the matter, little heroes? Did the big bad wolf just blow away your brick house?" Bakugo got really mad at this and in a fit of rage, blasts All For One, throwing the biggest explosion he has ever made at him. Bakugo stands up and says, "That's it? How did this guy kill All Might if it was that easy?" All For One comes out of the smoke that was created by the explosion without a single scratch on him. He grabs Bakugo by the neck, lifting him up. Bakugo tries to free himself, using an explosion, but All For One isn't phased at all. All For One says, Now, calm yourself, boy. If you can't do that, then you don't deserve that powerful quirk you got there. It would be better suited for Tomura." Bakugo tries to throw another explosion, but nothing happens. He says, "What the?" All For One smashes Bakugo into the pavement of the bridge, destroying it. The shockwave he created was powerful enough to knock everyone on the bridge out, except for a couple people. Midoriya, who made a shield to protect himself. Mirio, who phased through the explosion. Todoroki, who made an ice wall to protect himself and in the process managed to keep Ida safe, and way behind them also stained Dabi, Toga, and Spinner, because the ice kind of allowed them enough time to jump off the bridge before the impact. Tokoyami used Dark Shadow to protect himself and Tsuyasui. The bridge then begins to crumble and fall into the ocean. The heroes fall into the water, trying to avoid the debris that is falling on top of them, and All For One just floats down to them. Todoroki uses his ice side, touching the water, making a huge ice platform through the water, covering terrain that even reaches the shore. The heroes, who are still conscious, get on top of the platform. Mirio looks around and assesses the situation. He shouts, "Guys, you make sure that everyone gets to safety all right. I'll take care of this guy." Most of the students agree, but Midoriya says, "No way, I'm helping out here." Bakugo had the right idea. This guy just killed All Might. You might not be able to do it alone. He summons an armor made of his anti-quirk material and summons his black form on top of it, making a devastating fusion of the both. Midoriya summons 2 broadswords and he charges at All For One. All For One smirks and says, "So you're the cursed child." He then punches into the air, creating enough force to throw Midoriya's trajectory way off. He then throws another punch in the air, and the air pressure hits Midoriya back, throwing him back to the shore, because Midoriya missed, and then All For One hit him back. He then continues speaking. I've heard you're quite the nuisance if you manage to touch me. Todoroki then attacks All For One using a wall of ice. All For One blocks the attack with a punch, creating a lot of force that throws Todoroki back. But Todoroki manages to catch himself using his ice. While distracted with the ice, Mirio attacks him from the side. All For One tries to meet Mirio's punch, but Mirio just phases through it, hitting All For One in the face, making All For One stumble back. All For One spits out a bit of blood and says, "So you're the successor. Impressive! My brother would have been proud of you." In the background, Ida says, "Alright guys, let's get everyone out of here. So you have most maneuverability in water. So you dive in, get everyone out of the water, give them to me, I'll take them to shore using my engine. And Tokoyami, you protect us from the villain's attacks using your dark shadow." And the students launch the rescue plan into motion. Midoriya recovers and comes back with another attack. All For One sees this coming and, without looking, dodges the attack, letting Midoriya hit Mirio. Todoroki, not letting All For One have a moment to attack both of his friends, attacks him using another barrage of ice attacks. All For One puts his hand out and throws an explosion, negating the attack. Mirio and Midoriya have gotten on their feet and Midoriya looks at him in horror. Midoriya whispers, "That's Kachan's quirk." Midoriya rushes in for another attack, saying, "That's Kachan's quirk!" followed by Mirio. All For One evades Midoriya, throwing an explosion to his back, throwing him away. All For One then says, "That kid's quirk is really useful," meaning Mirio's. All For One is then attacked by Mirio. He takes the attack pretty well and turns to Mirio. He goes in to hit the head. Mirio faces reflexively and falls into the water. All For One is then hit by a wall of flames. He turns to Todoroki and says, "If your ice isn't going to hurt me, why do you expect your fire to?" Tokoyami caught Midoriya and threw him back into the fight, so Midoriya comes charging again. All For One evades again, letting Midoriya fly away. He says, "You really are a nuisance," and throws another air gust at Midoriya that throws him 300 meters away. Mirio bursts out of the water screaming, "So cold!" hitting All For One back. Mirio goes in for another attack after the other. All For One just evades them and says, "You know, All Might was a lot more powerful when I fought him last time. You don't really compare." Mirio says, "Maybe not." Todoroki then throws an ice spear through the ground. It phases through Mirio, hitting All For One in the stomach, making a couple drops of blood fall into the ground and to the ice. Mirio finishes, "But I'm not alone like he was." All For One smashes the ice spear, throws it to a side, like way aside. He says, "Maybe I've underestimated you." All For One throws a punch at Todoroki, as strong as he can. Mirio gets in the way, blocking it with his own punch because of the ice he is thrown. Because of the ice on the floor, like the floor they're standing on is made of ice, he does slip back a bit. A couple of meters away, like 50 meters away, Stain, Togen, Spitter, and Dabi come out of the water, stepping onto the ice platform. Togen says, "It's so cold." Stain says, "Flame guy, you can warm us up a bit." Dabi says, "Sure thing, Stain." Dabi makes a small flame, warming them up. Stain looks at All For One and the battle going on. He says, "He killed All Might. How dare they? They're going to die for this." Dabi says, "Wait, I don't understand. I thought you were part of the League. That's what led us to them." Stain says, "No, I wasn't. Not really. I did have an alliance with them, but not something really that was going to last for long." A couple of pieces of ice then slip towards them, covered with something red. Mirio and Todoroki are beaten up, trying to hold their own against All For One. Midoriya comes in for another attack. This time All For One grabs him, stopping him in his tracks. All For One says, "You really are a nuisance, aren't you? You're so annoying." He grabs Midoriya's armor, using his sleeves so he doesn't touch the material, so his quirk doesn't get negated, and he rips the armor apart. He then grabs Midoriya's arm and snaps them as if they were twigs. He then throws Midoriya towards Mirio and a now unconscious Todoroki, seeing as the previous attacks knocked him out. Mirio catches Midoriya and puts him down gently next to Todoroki. Mirio whispers, "You did good, kid." Midoriya, only up by a rush of adrenaline, gets up slowly and says, "Not done yet." All for One laughs and says, My, what resolve you have. Still, you're all beaten. The strongest among you can't even beat me, and your arms are broken, kid. You're at your limits. What do you intend to do? Midoriya has a small flashback to when Yami was teaching him about Ki, and to what Yami told him. Midoriya smiles and says, I'm at my limit, huh? Then I'll just have to surpass my limits, here and now. All for One says, a noble sentiment, boy. Midoriya says, if I can't use my arms, then I'll just hold my sword with my mouth. He summons his sword in his mouth and charges at All for One. All for One laughs and says, what a pitiful last-ditch effort. All for One is now about to counterattack, but in mid-swing, he just stops moving. He says, what's this now? In the distance, you can see that Stain just ingested some of the ice-covered blood. Midoriya slashes at All for One in the stomach, making a very deep cut. Blood starts to come out of it. Mirio takes advantage of the opportunity created for him and charges in using 100% of One for All. He screams from the depths of his heart, One for All, 1,000,000%! Ultimate Smash! Hitting All for One in the stomach, going up. The smash combined with the huge cut in the stomach managed to separate All for One in two parts, effectively killing him. Midoriya gets up from the attack. Mirio says, good job, Midoriya! Couldn't have done it without you. Midoriya smiles and then falls to the ground. Mirio runs to his side, catching him, and puts him down gently on the ground before Midoriya can actually touch the ground. In the distance, Stain says, come on, let's go. And Stain, along with his little group, get away. This is the actual end to the story, but I'm still going to give you a little epilogue, so get ready for that. 5 days later, Midoriya wakes up in the hospital. Midoriya now has two big scars that look a bit like handprints on both his arms, on his joints to be specific. The doctor explained the damages were extremely severe and that it's a miracle that he survived. Midoriya is the one who took on the worst damage in the fight besides All Might. The next 2 days, Midoriya isn't allowed any visitors while he recovers. He kind of slips in and out of sleep because of the exhaustion and the energy he needs to recuperate. He sees on the news when he's awake that the world gave All Might a proper send-off for all he did, and that his legacy will be upheld by those heroes who were there to help him during his final battle, and the hero he was training. He also sees on the news that a new group appeared in Hosu, calling itself the Purifiers. This group consists of Stain and his disciples. Nonetheless, Midoriya actually spent most of those 2 days sleeping, because again, he needs the stamina. Since he's sleeping, the 2 days pass very quickly. After a conversation with his mother about what he has accomplished, he promises to be more careful in the future. His mother does understand and is very proud of Midoriya for what he managed to do. After his mother, Nighteye comes into the room. Nighteye sits next to the bed and asks, how did you do it? Midoriya asks, do what? I'm not quite sure I understand what you mean, Nighteye. Nighteye says, how did you change the future? You probably know about my premonition quirk. The thing is, I used it during the fight on one of the villains. What I saw was All for One killing all of us. Somehow, you and Mirio and the other boy managed to change the future I saw. How did you do it? Midoriya looks out the window and says, I wasn't really thinking of the future at the time. I was focusing on surviving. and avenging All Might. Nighteye gets up and says, "You really are a blessed child to be able to do that. Either that, or a cursed one. Anyway, once you recover, you're always welcome to intern with me if you want. I won't keep you. I know your friends are waiting outside to greet you." After the interaction with Nighteye, most of Class 1A, except Bakugo and Uraraka, come in and have an interaction with Midoriya, in which they express how happy they are that he survived and that he actually managed to defeat that monster. Mineta even gives him a watermelon. Afterwards, they leave. Before Ida can leave the room, however, Midoriya asks, "Where's Bakugo? Oh, and Uraraka." Ida says, "Bakugo's in his own room. They aren't letting him leave. I do think you should go talk to him yourself. And as for Uraraka, she is in the premises, but she couldn't bring herself to face you." After a conversation with a doctor, Midoriya is allowed to go around the hospital. Midoriya goes to Bakugo's room. He says, "Hello, Kachan." Bakugo sees him and says, "Oh, hi, Izuku," in a sad and gloomy voice. Midoriya asks, "What's wrong?" Bakugo says, "Remember when we were little, and I beat you up because you didn't have a quirk? Remember why I called you? Do you remember what it stands for?" Midoriya says, "Can't say that I do." Bakugo, while looking at his hand, says, "It stood for Defenseless Izuku. It was an abbreviation. Still, you managed to overcome that and never gave up. And you even gave that name new meaning. And now that you have, it looks like I'm the useless and defenseless one." Midoriya looks at Bakugo confused and asks, "What do you mean?" Bakugo then shouts, "He took it, Deku! He took my quirk. Now I'm useless, like you used to be." Midoriya then remembers the fight, how All for One used Bakugo's power. A sad silence fills the room, and after what feels like an eternity for Bakugo, Midoriya says, "You aren't useless. You're still amazing, even without your quirk. You're still so talented, Kachan. You can still be a hero." Bakugo then shouts, "What are you talking about? There are no quirkless heroes." Midoriya smiles at Bakugo and says, "Then you can be the first one." Bakugo then starts crying. He expected for Midoriya to act like he once did, when Midoriya didn't have a quirk. But knowing how kind Midoriya is just fills him with joy. Bakugo then smiles and says, "Mark my words, Deku. When I get discharged, I'm going back to class, and even without a quirk, I will surpass you." Midoriya smiles and starts leaving and says, "You can try, Kachan, but I'm going to give it my all. And if you surpass me, then I'll just surpass you." Midoriya steps out of the room and goes to the reception. He asks, "Hello, have you seen a girl with a cheerful personality, brown eyes and hair, and some little pads on her cheeks?" The receptionist answers, "I don't know about the cheerful thing, but I saw a girl with that description earlier on the roof. She looked very worried or sad or something. Well, it is a hospital after all." Midoriya then goes to the roof, seeing Uraraka looking into the horizon. Midoriya walks towards her and says, "Beautiful view, isn't it?" Uraraka turns to Midoriya and whispers, "Deku." She then says, "It is." Midoriya then says, "So I wanted to tell you," but at the same time Uraraka says, "Deku, I actually wanted to say..." They both stutter a bit and blush, laughing over it. Midoriya says, "You first." Uraraka says, "I just wanted to say sorry. I don't really know how to phrase this. After the fight I saw you. Sure, we were all beaten up, but you were the one that was the worst out of all of us. They said you needed a couple operations, and even then the chances that you would survive were slim. I realize it might be a little stupid since you're one of the strongest people I know, but I was really worried. And during the operation, I couldn't help help it. I was just so worried. I don't know what I would do without you in my life. Midoriya then blushes a bit and looks at her wide-eyed. Uraraka gets flustered and says, sorry. What do you want to say? Midoriya smiles gently and says, I realized that I almost died, but during the fights, I couldn't help but think that about what he would do to you guys, especially you. Even since the first day we met, I've had an immense crush on you, and I can't imagine my life without you either. During the fight, I couldn't help but think I have to protect you, and I knew that if we failed to stop him, he would kill all of us. A moment of silence fills the room. Well, though they're outside, fills the room. Both of them look into each other's eyes, and they lean in for a kiss. I hope you all enjoyed this series. If you did, make sure to leave that like button. It is always appreciated. If you have any suggestions for anything, please leave them in the comments below. I do have to say that even though this series is over, it isn't the last time we'll see this version of Deku, and I really enjoyed making this. And thank you all for your immense support. I hope you all enjoyed, and until next time, have a nice day, everyone.